Hello and good morning. I love that today is about freezing because all of my audio equipment has decided to freeze. I think it's all working now. If you can hear me, let me know. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. This is indeed going to be an interesting conversation because I have had so many reasons that so many relatable reasons to be giving this live today. And we're going live on something that's killing your momentum. You probably don't even realize it's happening. I actually figured this out over the weekend. Shankar said, why don't you talk about something that you took away this weekend? We were at a conference with John Lee. And by the way, I do want to thank you so much again for being here. I want to honor you. I know that you didn't have to step in. You probably have a busy morning or afternoon or evening, whatever time it is for you. But thank you for showing up. Thank you for supporting me. Please do definitely go to andreaferguson.com. So by the end, you can get all of the affirmations and mantras that we will be doing today. And so that you can stay up to date and follow what's going on. But as I said, we're talking about what's probably killing your momentum. You may not even realize it's happening. Like I said, my biggest takeaway this weekend wasn't really about strategy or tactics. It was more about execution, because I realized that I'd been creating excuses without knowing it. Yes, I freeze when the stakes are high, but here's what I also do. And I had ChatGPT help me with this because it's able to analyze us so well. Have you been using ChatGPT to help analyze your behavior, your strengths, your weaknesses? If you have, just drop in the chat that you have, let me know. I know that it's trending kind of going around these days, but we definitely can use these tools to self-reflect and figure out a lot of what we may just have blind sights to, blind spots and oversights too. But actually, I will be a little overly truthful here, in a good way, in a positive way, and I hope it helps you, because okay, so a blind spot analysis, and I'll connect it to freeze, and you'll see exactly why we're talking about this here. You tweak, rewrite, rescript. It's not vanity, it's vision. But sometimes it means the world sees 80% of you max. High standards become a bottleneck. So here's the antidote: make 85% good enough and build feedback into the process instead of trying to anticipate every flaw. So this is micro control disguised as excellence. Like I said, I figure out when the stakes are high, that's sometimes when I freeze, but mostly I give 80% of myself max. I become a perfectionist and I polish and I optimize until the day is over or the opportunity is gone. Does that sound familiar to you? If you're here, chances are you are intelligent, you're self-aware, and you have two problems. You freeze when it matters most, and you sabotage yourself with maybe some of the things that I do, which is endless refinement. And It's not nice. Endless refinement when you do start moving. So there's something to be said about not just going, not just starting, not just executing, but how you do that. And we should praise ourselves when we get started on something. But we also should realize the reason we start is to finish. And I think that freezing along the way is a big culprit. And yeah, like I said, it can happen when you are highly intelligent because you're thinking of all of the ways things could go wrong or all of the things that need to be fixed. And not because you're weak, but your nervous system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. And nobody taught you how to work with it instead of against it. Freeze and perfectionism are the same problem with different expressions. I'm going to check into the chat here, see if you agree, see if it does sound familiar. Looks like we have some comments on X here. So just going to check in. Okay. All right. So you're probably wondering, okay, so how do we get over this? Yes, I recognize it. Yes, it's something that I do, something that everyone does, right? I want you to think about what actually causes you to freeze and then the perfectionism trap in these high stake moments. And then you're going to learn one nervous system regulation that makes you move, that makes you trust yourself, because ultimately the reason you're not doing something isn't because you're lazy. It's because your brain, specifically your amygdala, has taken control and said, we have to protect ourselves. So what is the way to reset so that you feel safe? Ultimately, if you're not moving, it's because you don't feel safe. Perfectionism is just a way to mask that. So how do you make yourself feel safe? How do you trust yourself? What's one micro shift you can use right now to move without overthinking or over polishing? All right, so like I said, most people think freezing is about fear, but it's really not. It's pattern recognition gone a little haywire. So, and like I said, perfectionism is the same root cause, but different expression. So your brain is constantly scanning for patterns, for threats, for opportunities, for familiar sequences. And when the stakes are high or the situation feels unpredictable, it's a little bit too new, your pattern recognition system has two responses. So it's either going to freeze and say, I don't have enough data to guarantee success here, and then it puts on the emergency brake, or you're going to get trapped in perfectionism. I need to optimize this until it's bulletproof. Just this endless refinement that I mentioned. And then people see 80% of Emacs. Okay. So both are your nervous system trying to create certainty in an uncertain situation. This is one of the reasons why visualization and manifestation and affirmations and basically mindfulness in itself is very powerful, because you learn how to regulate, how to center yourself, how to stay calm. You learn how to train your body to recognize what is safe. My breath makes me safe. It starts with the body, right? Anyway, the two faces of the same problem. Like I said, at the conference, I realized freeze and perfectionism are both avoidance strategies, both avoidance strategies that and I'm sure you yourself are really good at. The freeze says, don't start until you know it's going to work. And the perfectionism says, don't start until it's perfect. And both keep you from fully executing. Okay. If that sounds about right, tell me yes in the comments. Do you understand? Or it's something you recognize? I mean, it's really kind of scary, right? Like, maybe scary isn't the right word. It's crazy. I say scary because I know that there's so much potential inside of me, and I know there's potential inside of you as well. But the facts are that you can trap yourself. You can keep yourself from seeing your full potential just because you are not executing, just because something inside of you is saying this is not safe. And both keep you from your full execution, from momentum. It robs you, both of your brain's way of trying to control outcomes instead of just trusting your ability to handle whatever comes your way. One thing that I love that John Lee mentioned in the conference was that it's not about who is the strongest, right? So in Darwin's theory, it's survival of the fittest and the strongest and all of that. But it's actually who is the most adaptable. It's the strongest of the most adaptable. I'm strongest. The survival of the most adaptable. And I've seen it in myself. I've gotten these situations where it's like, well, I didn't have this and I didn't have that. So it's not, I can't do this. I can't do it. I don't have the right conditions. And if I were to do this, it's not going to come out my best. Okay, so even if that is true, if your survival depends on you moving without the perfect conditions and you just wait for the perfect conditions, how do you survive? How do you make that happen? And the answer is you can't. You cannot always have the perfect conditions, the sky without a few clouds. You can't even get growth without rain. Rain literally comes, pours on everything, on the flowers, on the grass, on the trees. But sometimes the rain is not light and spring-like or beautiful even. Sometimes the rain is a storm. Sometimes it's a bit harder. The wind is cold or it's chilly. And if you're sitting there waiting for perfection, that may never come. You just will get trapped in the storm and not move, or you'll just miss your opportunity. But sometimes when it rains, it pours. But you have to survive and adapt. That is the way to survive sometimes, is to become adaptable, whether instead of trying to control, especially a bunch of things that are not within your power, you just trust your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Intelligence makes the problems worse. The smarter you are, the more variables you can see. The more variables you can see, the more potential failure points your brain identifies. So with freeze, this creates analysis paralysis. With perfectionism, it creates that endless optimization loop. You always see one more thing to improve, one more angle to consider, one more way to make it better. This is an operational problem. That is why the title of this is how to stay operational when the system shuts down. And that 80% trap is a killer. Because when you're stuck in perfectionism mode, you're not actually giving your full effort to execution. You're spending 80% doing the actual work and 20% managing your anxiety about the work not being perfect. You think you're being thorough, you're actually being inefficient. You think you're being careful, but you're being scared. So, pattern recognition is really important. Pattern recognition versus present moment execution. What does that mean? Both freeze and perfectionism happen when your pattern recognition system can't find a clear precedent for success in your memory banks. Ooh. Fancy way of saying you have not taken the time to make it safe for you to succeed. Your brain looks for patterns, for clues, and it looks through your whole memory. It scans the bank and it's like, I don't see any evidence for success. So how do you do that? You have to pour into yourself. You have to take a leap. You have to overcome one challenge, drop it into your memory bank, and then your brain will use it for future success. But back to that storm, back to the rain that you wanted to be light and beautiful and be like Dick Van Dyke and just, I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling. It's not always going to happen. But, and this is so important. This is so important. Breakthrough moments require you to act without precedent and to execute before you have perfect information, maybe all of the information. It's again about that, I don't feel prepared. It's okay. I don't have my umbrella. Can't go out in the storm and the rain. Sometimes the freeze keeps you from starting, right? And perfectionism keeps you from finishing. Both keep you from the messy middle where the real results happen. It gets messy when you don't have your umbrella. It gets messy. And although I'm saying to trust yourself, if you're in the middle of it all, trust yourself is kind of useless advice when your nervous system is in freeze mode, because trust requires a regulated nervous system. So all this means is you have to prepare in advance, because you can't access trust when you're dysregulated. It's like trying to have a rational conversation when someone's screaming in your ear. And I think we have all had that situation. Before you can trust yourself, you got to regulate. You need to regulate yourself. And regulation, it's not about calming down. It's about creating enough nervous system space to access your actual intelligence instead of your threat detection system. Going to check in on your comments. Maybe this is familiar with you. Maybe this has happened to you. Give me a thumbs up or an okay. If you understand, if you agree, if you can identify. Wow. Okay. Now we just need that one move, the reset breath. So you can have this technique when something happens, when you're overriding your nervous system, when you're making yourself operational. So you're going to reset by taking a breath, pushing all of the air out of your lungs when you exhale, okay? So let's inhale. Hold. Push all of the air out of your lungs. Inhale slowly for 4 to 6 counts. Hold it. And exhale slowly for 6 to 8 counts. Let's do this again. Inhale. Last time. Hold. Exhale. One last time. And hold. Exhale. Bravo, bravo. Okay, so it may be relaxing, but this works not. It's not because of the relaxation. It's about signaling to your vagus nerve you're safe enough to think clearly. When you extend the hail, you're activating the part that allows for the clear decision making instead of scanning for threats. And think of this as building a bridge between freeze mode and flow. You're not trying to eliminate the fear response. You're just creating space between the trigger and your reaction so that you can choose your next move consciously. So one of the things that we don't want to do is fall into this subconscious trap. So when you are shifting, you stop trying to see the whole staircase because your brain freezes when it can't map the entire journey from here to there. So instead, you're going to ask yourself, what's the smallest step, the smallest next right step I can make right now with the information I have right now? Not the perfect step, not even the optimal step, just the next right step with the information that I have. And you'll do that after you regain that sense of clarity because your nervous system is set from just breathing. Now we can also shift from certainty to experimentation. You know, it's okay to experiment. Plastic was created by accident. Probably could have left that. There's a lot of things that are created that were created by accident. I could actually pull it up. There's a book I'm reading by Dr. Tara Swart called The Source, and she lists all the things that are created. You wouldn't believe the things that were created by accident. I believe penicillin was even created by accident. So instead of saying, I need to know this will work, just start saying, I'm going to run with this experiment to gather some data. Life sometimes is just about experimenting and collecting data. It's not always about being perfect. It's not about everything panning out perfectly every single time, even when it's a high stake decision. If you look at it as information gathering instead of this life or death choice, you're going to be okay. Because why? Experiments can fail and still be successful if you gather enough data from it. And this is a way of letting yourself know, because decisions feel permanent, but experiments feel temporary, right? It's all about reframing, even from perfect timing to good enough timing. Because your brain will always find a reason to say the reason why now is not the right time. There's always more information that your brain can gather. Always more information, more preparation you can do, more certainty you can build. But sometimes good enough beats perfection, the perfect timing. Why? Because the perfect timing doesn't exist. Just ask yourself, do I have enough information to take the next step? Not all the information, just enough. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control the process. When you focus on outcomes, your brain once again starts scanning for threats. all the ways it could go wrong. When you focus on progress, your brain starts problem solving. So ask yourself, what process can I commit to regardless of the outcome? Then you commit to the progress and not the result. So even when Shankar and I are traveling and he's a bit more resilient, I have to hand it to him because he's a man. I need my sleep. I'm a woman. I don't know if you guys know this, but women actually require way more sleep than men. We've previously said 6 to 8 hours is what humans need. We now know you need 8 at a minimum. And women, likely, depending on their stage in life, need 9 to 10 hours of sleep, right? So in any case, we were a little bit underslept because we were traveling, driving, doing all of these things. And I asked Shankar, why didn't you get more sleep? And he said, because the rhythm, which is essentially the process, right, matters more to me. So focus on the process and the progress over the outcome. Do you see how that ties in together? Stay committed to one thing that you can control regardless of the outcome. When you commit to that process instead of the result, you can give yourself a high five. You can feel good because regardless of what happened or what happens, you've already won because you committed to that part of the process. So this is counterintuitive that you don't need that. One, you don't control all the outcomes, or maybe we know that. But another thing is you actually don't need clarity to move either. Why? Because movement creates clarity. Have you ever gotten a bike, or even in your car you've driven and you just start driving and then just a few steps you're like, wait a minute, this is not the right direction. I need to turn around, or I need to put in the map again in my GPS. That's because the action is what generates the information. As you're going forward, you gather more information. You look around you, you see the trees, you see that you're starting to head on a highway you shouldn't, or it's things that thinking alone cannot produce. You need to gather the information as you're moving forward. Sometimes you need to pivot in your job or what you're doing, but you don't know until you start. Maybe this isn't my audience. Maybe this isn't the content I need to create. Maybe this isn't the problem I need to solve, or maybe it is. But you gather more information that just thinking, you cannot think your way into solutions. Sometimes you need the movement. So movement creates clarity, and that's why you don't need clarity to move. Hello to you who are listening out there. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here. If it sounds, familiar, just type in movement. Movement. All right, so let's see. I think it's time for us to go into another little micro action. All right, let's do it. I want to do some breath reset. We're going to do 3 cycles, okay? So that was what we already learned. So this is very easy to do. You literally just breathe. You breathe in, you hold, you breathe out as long as you can, hold, and repeat, okay? So you're going to do that a few times, and we're going to do one, identify one tiny little micro action we can take. in the next 5 minutes. Okay? So let's do it. Let's breathe in, hold it, and breathe out. Breathe in again. Breathe out as long as you can. Breathe in, hold, and out. This time, and out. Very good. Before we go, I want to say these affirmations and mantras. I move with complete information and gather wisdom as I go. I trust my ability to figure it out in real time. Movement creates the clarity I seek. I am safe to take the next right step. Uncertainty is not danger, it's possibility. I choose process over perfection. My nervous system is my ally, not my enemy. I act from regulation, not reaction. I am building my capacity for the unknown. Take a moment to feel these truths in your body, not just understand them intellectually, but feel them as cellular knowledge. Now bring to mind one area that you've been frozen. See it clearly. Feel the previous tension around it. And now breathe into that space. I see the next right step clearly. I have everything I need for this moment. I move forward with steady confidence. When you're ready, take one more reset breath and open your eyes. You're carrying this regulation with you right now. I just want to tell you, your intelligence is an asset and not a liability. But only when it's paired with a regulated nervous system and a bias toward action. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't need the storm or the rain to be the perfect rain. You don't need to always have your umbrella. You just need to trust your ability to figure it out. Even if you have to run over to the staircase or get in the car and start gathering information around you as you drive. Just trust your ability to figure it out as you go. It's not reckless. That's how breakthrough happens. I want you to sign up to andreaferguson.com so that you can get these affirmations and the mantras that I mentioned. It's andreaferguson.com. You'll be taken to a landing page. Just enter in your name, your email, hit submit, and I'll make sure that you get them. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful, mindful day. Bye bye.